People love this. People really love this. Anytime you're ready, Kevin.
Already.
We're already rolling? All right. Tom from History Delights. Kevin behind the camera. Say hello, Kevin.
Hi, Tom. Hi, everyone.
We're here in Minnesota. We're at a knife show where all kinds of custom knives have been made. And we come across Ken Nelson here, Scottish, and he has some interesting weapons and some interesting knives. And what we were fascinated with was the history, kind of like on these spears here. So would you mind explaining what you got here?
All right. A spear is basically one of the oldest and one of the most commonly used weapons throughout the ages. Spears may have won more battles than any other weapon in history. And while this one isn't for any specific location or time, it could have been found probably over a span of 2,000 years easily. It's just a simple wrap and mold, modern tool steel, so 8670 over an ash shaft.
And you use ash for the strength of the wood, right?
Yes.
Just like baseball bats.
Yeah, it's strong and it's flexible.
Right.
It can take an awful lot before it snaps.
Sure.
Also, same thing, I use the ash for this, the Guten Tag.
And what is that?
It literally translates into good day. This is something that was used in the Battle of the Golden Spurs. The Flemish mercenaries and the Flemish guild members used this as a city defense weapon against armed and mounted French knights, and won.
Wow.
It was a big upset in history, and it was one of the first breaks where the people realized that the French knight, the armored charge, wasn't the most important thing in a battle anymore. And they really put the nail in the coffin a little bit later during the Battle of Agincourt, where English archers took out the French knights just as well.
Would this be referred to more as a pike rather than a spear?
Perhaps. It's a little short for a pike. Most blades were about 15 foot long.
They were real long,
and
yeah.
this is about my size.
Right.
So about 4.5, 5 foot. But yeah, definitely club area for knocking anything down or to crunch the armor. Swords wouldn't really get through armor at this time.
I was going to say, because with this and as thick as that is, it was meant to get through the armor.
Exactly.
I'm assuming it'd get through chainmail and everything.
Chainmail without a problem.
Right.
This wouldn't be effective against plate because it could crush it and reduce the movement.
Okay.
You wouldn't actually really hurt the knight underneath the armor, but you could keep him from moving his arm, you could keep him from moving his leg. Then, if you really needed to, the spike could find a weak spot in the armor and go through.
Great.
And you can get a lot of weight behind the full thrust.
Are these knives of your design, or is there some historical designs here? Or?
So, a lot of them are based in historical patterns.
Okay.
But again, right now, knives have been used for so long, we have nothing new under the sun.
Absolutely. I was going to.
A simple double-edged dagger has been seen how long?
Right.
This one's a little bit more along the lines of a puko, especially with the finished one with the tapered back edge.
Right.
It just seems to be a little bit easier for getting in and out when you're carving.
Yep.
Most puko makers don't use that rhombic shape anymore. It's just the
Straight on the back. Yeah, I do. I like that little bit of a reduces the drag and just gives you a nicer cut.
Yeah, I love pukos.
And how would you refer to these two different kinds of swords?
These could fall into the category of the medieval swords.
Okay.
If you're going to go through like Oakshot's book, the record of the medieval sword, or sword in hand, this would probably be listed in as like an 18, or I kind of base this off the Arms and Armor one they call the Henry V.
Okay.
So it's a little bit thicker, it's a little bit more rigid for the thrust, but it's wide enough to get a good cut. And this one is often referred to as a 18E, sometimes also referred to as the Dane.
Okay.
Because they were the ones who were specifically using this pattern of longsword.
Now, may I pick this up?
Right ahead.
Okay. I wanted to show the Damascus Steel, and maybe can you get a close up on that beautiful Damascus? Can you kind of explain how Damascus Steel is made?
All right. Early on, the Damascus patterns that I've seen and admired the most came from the Anglo-Saxon migration era and the early Vikings, where
Right.
they would do a lot of twisted corks. A lot of that was done originally to make a more homogeneous and more uniform steel, because the smelt would end up with varying levels of carbon and varying levels of phosphorus.
Got to take a look at how long this
You know,
is.
over the years, pattern welding has been used here and there for decoration. Now, modern tool steels are more homogeneous and more uniform from the beginning to the end of the pour than anything any of our ancestors could do.
Right.
I don't do this to make the blades better anymore. I do it to make them prettier.
Right. Yeah.
I love the look of it. Each one is unique like a fingerprint.
It is. It is. So on a sword like this or this, how long does it take you to make one?
Better part of a week or maybe even into 2 weeks.
Now, is that like after work time, or do you do this full time, or?
I'm on the border between full-time and part-time.
Oh, that's
I have
that's
done
where
this-
we want to
yep.
be someday.
I have done this full-time,
Yeah.
but I also drive a school bus.
Okay.
Just for the off-season where I'm not getting as much work done. Keeps everything even. So,
Well, I'm sure it depends on the pattern and how fancy you want to make it, and like with handle materials. So, would it be fair to say between 40 to 80 hours somewhere in there?
that would be a good way to put it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
I'm thinking, an average work week
Yep.
would be about 40 hours. So somewhere in that range.
Great. All right.
It's hard to keep track specifically
Oh,
because
sure. You're-
generally when I make the Damascus patterns, I'll spend a week doing nothing but making billets.
Just getting the billets made.
And then
yeah.
I'll pick them out and say, okay, I want to do this one, I want to pattern this, and then go from there.
Okay, great. Well, Ken, thank you so much for your time. We sure appreciate it. And again, this will be on History Delights
History Delights?
on YouTube. So
Okay.
we should have this one up in hopefully less than a week.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Ken.
If nothing else, send me a link.
I
to make
will.
sure that I can
I've got your
get to your
card.
channels.
I want to make sure I got your card. I'm sure I grabbed it.
All right. But yeah, I've got.
Maybe I didn't. I already will. We've got a picture. We got pictures of it, so I can.
Sometimes too. Sometimes.